time for school, but where's the teacher? Here I am. Let's see who else is here. Let me get my magic mirror and see who's here. Boys and girls, it looks like everybody's here today. We're all here. We're all here. We're all here at school today. Boys and girls, we are going to have a much better day today than we had yesterday. Now, let me start by apologizing for bursting into tears and running out of the room. It was a little bit stressful trying to give you your assessment yesterday. So we're going to do a better job today. Everybody is going to do a better job today. Did you hear me, Billy? Everybody's going to do good. Now, we're going to start out with some smart spray I bought at the magic store last night. Everybody hold your breath, and I'm going to spray you with some smart spray. Smart spray all around. Susie, why are you crying? Honey, that did not get in your eyes. Okay, now we all got some smart spray on. We are all ready to take this. Now, we've been practicing this for 4 days, so I need you to pay attention. Now, this is what the assessment looks like that's on your desk, okay? Veronica, why you got your Bible out? I know you need Jesus to finish this test. I do too, believe me, but put it away. Put it under your desk, okay? This is what we're going to be doing. This is question number 1, okay? It's got a flower in the corner of it, okay? This is math. It's super easy. We're going to be answering the question in red box, and you're just going to color in one of the circles. Here's the question. How many chicks are in the picture? No, I don't know if they're from Chick-fil-A or not. Just count the chicks. How many chicks are in the picture? I want you to color that in right there. Okay, Billy, why are you coloring the blue box? We're on the red box, okay? You put your crayons down. Just hold on right there, okay? How many? Everybody color it in. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, everybody but Billy's got it. Good job. Now, question number 2, the blue box. If one of the chicks went away, I don't know why they went away, but if one of the chicks went away, one of these 3 chicks went away, I don't know if they're mad at each other, okay? Just stop talking about the chicks. Listen to me. If one of the chicks went away, how many are left? I don't know if they're bullying the chick. Okay, you know what? Just pick an answer, okay? One of them goes away. How many of them are... Okay, oh, hold on. Let me look at my magic mirror. Oh, look her there. I see Vera's mom. She's pointing to the right answer. Vera's mama needs to go away. time for school, but where's the teacher? Here I am. Let's see who else is here. Let me get my magic mirror and see who's here. Boys and girls, it looks like everybody's here today. We're all here. We're all here. We're all here at school today. Boys and girls, we are going to have a much better day today than we had yesterday. Now, let me start by apologizing for bursting into tears and running out of the room. It was a little bit stressful trying to give you your assessment yesterday. So we're going to do a better job today. Everybody is going to do a better job today. Did you hear me, Billy? Everybody's going to do good. Now, we're going to start out with some smart spray I bought at the magic store last night. Everybody hold your breath, and I'm going to spray you with some smart spray. Smart spray all around. Susie, why are you crying? Honey, that did not get in your eyes. Okay, now we all got some smart spray on. We are all ready to take this. Now, we've been practicing this for 4 days, so I need you to pay attention. Now, this is what the assessment looks like that's on your desk, okay? Veronica, why you got your Bible out? I know you need Jesus to finish this test. I do too, believe me, but put it away. Put it under your desk, okay? This is what we're going to be doing. This is question number 1, okay? It's got a flower in the corner of it, okay? This is math. It's super easy. We're going to be answering the question in red box, and you're just going to color in one of the circles. Here's the question. How many chicks are in the picture? No, I don't know if they're from Chick-fil-A or not. Just count the chicks. How many chicks are in the picture? I want you to color that in right there. Okay, Billy, why are you coloring the blue box? We're on the red box, okay? You put your crayons down. Just hold on right there, okay? How many? Everybody color it in. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, everybody but Billy's got it. Good job. Now, question number 2, the blue box. If one of the chicks went away, I don't know why they went away, but if one of the chicks went away, one of these 3 chicks went away, I don't know if they're mad at each other, okay? Just stop talking about the chicks. Listen to me. If one of the chicks went away, how many are left? I don't know if they're bullying the chick. Okay, you know what? Just pick an answer, okay? One of them goes away. How many of them are... Okay, oh, hold on. Let me look at my magic mirror. Oh, look her there. I see Vera's mom. She's pointing to the right answer. Vera's mama needs to go away. That's right. Mark your answer right there. You got 3 of these right here. One of them goes away. I don't know why. Mark your answer. Okay, good job. Now we're going to go to the next page. It looks like this. Look right here. Let me tell you a story. Billy is going on a walk with his dog. Not Billy. It just says Billy here, so I have to use that word. Billy is going to, I don't know why they chose Billy. They don't know who Billy is. Billy is going to, okay, I'll use a different name. Okay, Justin is going on a walk with his, I don't know if it's Justin Bieber. Okay, I'm going to mute everybody. Mute, just listen. Justin is going on a walk with his dog. He sees a car, a man. Why is it, what are y'all all saying? Quit screaming stranger danger, okay? It's a man that he, you know what? Let's just go to lunch, okay? We're going to take a lunch break. Yes, Nevaeh, I know it is 8:45 in the morning. Haven't you ever eaten an early lunch? Let's just go to lunch, and we'll come back and try to be smart after lunch, okay?
It's time for the segment on what we learned in school.
What we learned in school.
So you weren't here last week, so I'm interested to see how much you remember from the replay. But what I want to point out is community. One of the key core things I think it's a repeating theme of everything that we've learned throughout Got School is sticking to community and connecting to your community. Knowing that you're not alone, knowing that there are resources available, and then transferring that information from one family to the next. I think it's so essential that people understand that we don't live in these little isolated houses or little community apartments, that we need to really start tapping back into community. Like back in the day, I couldn't walk to my grandmother's house to the corner store, from my grandmother's house to the corner store without somebody saying, hey, does your grandma know that you're walking to the store? I mean, everyone knew who I was. And so I think that's really important in this time, that we remember that there's community, not just here in your local community, but also reaching out to your family and friends across the country.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people often forget that everything is local. You know, all local matters. And one of the things, as I was going back through watching the recording, coming away from our remote, was the framework forward that Dr. Gia talked about. And what that really embodies is the fact that we as advocates, parents, teachers, educators need to build out a guideline for our youth to really understand how to socially connect and become socially impactful. And that was a good takeaway that she shared. And so I highly recommend folks going back and watching that to hear specifically about that connection to community and framework forward.
I agree. And you know what's so powerful about that is that it reminded me of advocacy and the importance of, as you're making those local transitions and getting back into your community, is being present. Now it's so much easier to go to a board meeting, right? If you want to be involved and make the next step forward, is connecting to your local legislators, connecting to the school board, and finding out what decisions are being made in your community on your behalf, and then being part of the conversation. It's really, really important. It made me go, you know what, when's the next board meeting? It's all virtual now. I don't have any excuse. All I have to do is have a link and access to my gadget. So I'm gonna start tuning in to what's going on and helping make those decisions and moving forward.
No, for sure. And that actually was the reason I wasn't present last week, was because I was helping two of our Southern California school districts at their board meetings. But I also attended our San Diego County Board of Education meeting, which I'm glad that I was there because they didn't have a Black minority voice present in what they were talking about. But that also segues back to one of the things that I noted on the recording, was really understanding the achievement gap. And it's less of an achievement gap and more of a psychology of the gap, focused on children and where they are emotionally. Because right now, this is a traumatic, not only time and experience for everyone, but specifically for our students in K-12, because they not only miss their friends, but they don't know how to learn. And so really working with our children to understand where their emotional state is before we even begin teaching them and expecting them to learn. So
yeah, I think we start. Yeah, I think we start there, right? Before you educate, what are the emotional literacy tools that we need, which is the perfect introduction to our next guest.
So before we get started, we're going to watch a quick video, but we want to talk and introduce you to Robin LOCKHART. And Robin LOCKHART is a professional in youth work, coaching, therapeutic coaching, mentoring, and human development. He spent years upon years in personal growth and focused on the change industry. Robin, so far on Got School, our conversations have really been surrounded around education and tips for parents for virtual learning. You're going to be here today after our video for a deeper conversation on emotional literacy. And we have a couple questions that we're going to have for you, and hopefully we can have some great dialogue. So here's the video.
Virtual Unity was set up by Richard Taylor, Damilola Taylor's father, and Ian Levy when their children were murdered a long time ago. What we're doing now is we're trying to branch out and bring in more and more of the stuff for the young people.
I remember there being a knock, and then my mum and dad just came upstairs and they were crying. They didn't see me, but they were like, my mum was like crying and she was on the floor. That's all that I remember. And then the next day, there were police over and I was having my cereal. And then my mum and dad said that they're going to the cemetery place to see if they found my brother or not. And they said that hopefully it wasn't him. And they just came back and then they were just crying.
How old was Courtney?
16.
16. It's the first weekend in initially a 12-month program. We've got, I think it's 11, really inspirational young people. We're going to be doing some team building stuff. We're going to be exploring who they are, how they relate to what they've been through, and we'll be exploring what they want to do with this project. How you doing? I'm good. I'm looking forward to this.
This weekend is a beginning of a great journey. I'm hoping to take away something that makes me feel like I've never given up ever, and I never will give up. I'm here because of my brother. His death was quite brutal. I mean, they had like looped a chain around their hands, and they was punching him in his head until he died.
I mean, I've known Bill since his brother Bob was murdered, which was 7. How long ago?
2007.
Wow.
I think a lot of people are not afraid to talk about it, but people like cringe when they hear that something's happened to someone, something so tragic has happened to someone, so they may not want to go into detail, but sometimes it's okay to do that, and I think today was like the most fitting time, or this morning was the most fitting time for us to actually be able to do that.
My friend was killed in Walthamstow in East London. When they said CJ was killed, it was like, can't be the same person, like it can't be him. And when we got back, it was like that was when it really hit.
Well, nearly 10 years ago, this October, it's going to be 10 years since I lost my dad.
Why does it have to be that one person that you lost? But your story can help someone else. I think your story can help someone else.
I'm very much a believer in the advocacy for young people. I don't do it for them, but I'll support them to do what they want to do. And that's what this weekend is about, is how do they want to tell their story.
We think there's a lack of voice for the young people who've been bereaved. And what we're trying to do is bring the young people together to generate their own plan, their own strategy.
We've come to a point where we want a voice, and not just directly from the immediate family, but siblings and friends of friends that have been affected. And I think the main reason is positivity, to just really put our voices on a platform where people can actually understand why we want to change our neighborhoods where we live and certain things that happen around us. And we are here to give on a positive note, and also on an unfortunate note that we've lost a lot, and we're trying to gain by never losing again.
I think things like this is what helps us. It helps us connect. We've got some girls from Newcastle here, and a lot of us are from London, well, all over London, so it's nice when we actually come together. So if we can create something like that, where everyone can come together from different places in the UK, for example, that would be good.
It's not just one family, it's so many different families. And these people are all here together. It's so powerful. Through Unity is trying to change the fact that we've got knives on the street, that we've got guns on the street, that we've got gangs waiting to kill each other, and it's just sad. And that's why I love Free Unity. Free Unity is about helping and listening. They listen to our problems and they actually want to help understand. And even if you don't know what to say, at least somebody's here waiting to say to you, we're here to help you. And that's an amazing thing.
My friend who came today, she said that, she's not been directly affected, but she feels now that she can do something. She doesn't know how, but she just wants to be there, she wants to help, she wants to be a part of something big.
We've been talking a lot about ways in which we could reach out to the youth, and ways in which we could talk about the aim of Through Unity without trying to bore them, because young people, they need to be engaged. We've come up with a poem. It talks about all the stuff that gangs think are acceptable, but if you read it backwards, it shows young people that these things aren't acceptable. And we talk about family, because family is seen as a central thing in most people's lives. So we just want to figure out, if family is so important, why do you insist on breaking another family apart?
I keep saying family, family, but Through Unity is really like a family. And I hope to see them just grow. I say them, it's us now, really.
Yeah.
Because we've got like the adults, but now we've got us, young people, kind of leading that part.
Through Unity it's basically a home away from home for me, because they've really helped me through really tough times. So, yeah.
Hi, today super excited to introduce Robin Lockhart. Robin Lockhart is a seasoned professional in youth and youth coaching, youth work, therapeutic coaching, mentoring, and human development. He spent years crafting and honing personal growth within the change industry. So, Robin, before we go any further, so far on Got School, we've been providing our listeners and our viewers with resources and content and tips to help parents and their students through this distance learning time. You're here today for a deeper conversation on emotional and educational literacy. Can you give our viewers a snapshot of what the emotional climate has been for you? And what a lot of people don't know is that you're not here in the United States. You're actually in London. And so can you kind of give us a perspective on what's happening in London and the UK during the pandemic?
Wow. Well, first of all, let me thank you for inviting me onto this show. It's a real honor and a real privilege. And I am in London right now. The question you've asked sounds like a really simple question. However, I think I'm probably speaking for most Londoners to say that we don't really know what's happening. Our leaders are giving us lots of very confusing messages. Young people were all told to go back to school, so they did. And literally days later, were blamed for an increase in infections through COVID. So it's been a really, really interesting time. I don't think it's been all negative. I think there's lots of good things that have come up for me and my team through COVID. It's been strange in that we're all being asked to socially distance, and yet we feel more closely digitally connected.
That's great. That's great feedback. Thank you. One of the things I found very, very interesting as I was doing some background research is you were talking about that engagement piece, and what we've asked of our students to go back to school, and then we brought them back to school, then blamed them. Engagement happens, in people as a result. It doesn't happen to people, is something that you recently said. And so I found that very interesting. Adria has some questions she's going to ask you, because we really want to make this conversation not only relevant, but robust and rigorous at the same time. And we know that you can fill in that content.
Absolutely.
I hope so.
Absolutely. So, Robin, are there, because of this pandemic and the work that you do, are there any resources or solutions that you've, resiliently put together to help support your network?
Yeah, I mean, we've had to think on our feet. We had a project that was due to start just as lockdown happened in the UK. We were supposed to be out in East London in the 4 ex-Olympic boroughs, in fact. That project was to help young people to learn how to create, curate, and then commercialize original digital content. And alongside of that was a whole coaching and youth work and training program as well. We've had to kind of turn that on its head, and we've started online. But we've been using technology with young people for many, many years. I mean, one of the central sort of tenets of youth work is that you meet young people where they are, whether that's in the park, whether that's in the school, the college, the prison, or online. So, we've been doing this sort of thing online for a long, long time. And our approach is always to work with what emerges. We stick to our guns about not deciding before we've met the young people about what the learning outcomes might be, or even what the objectives of the session are. We like to engage young people in the whole process, because I after having done this for 20 odd years, 25 years nearly, we know
that if we don't get the engagement 100% right at the very, very beginning of the process, it doesn't matter how good the process is. You could have all the resources, you could have the best resources in the world. If the young people aren't engaged in the process, it doesn't make any difference. And that's something that cuts through all of our work, is we know we need to get that right.
And you actually said young people are an outcome of a problem.
Bizarre.
Brilliant.
It's in youth work particularly, we seem to only be allowed to engage with young people around a problem.
Right.
Now, if we view people as being the problem, rather than them facing the problem, it changes the interaction. And most funders, most government schemes focus on problems. Now, I don't know about you guys, but in my life, if I started talking about and thinking about and speaking about and only focusing on everything I didn't want in my life, that's not going to go well. Yeah. So I'll give you a direct example. The British government gave us a contract in January that was kind of curtailed by March when lockdown happened, and it came through a funding stream they called the Anti-Knife Crime Community Fund. So we applied. Anti-Knife Crime Community Fund. We have a big problem with knives rather than guns.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. A lot of people don't know that in the UK you don't have guns. So thank you.
It's very difficult, thank goodness, to get hold of a gun here. But knives are a different issue. I mean, knives are in every single household. And this fund was meant to work with young people who have been around knife crime, either as victims or perpetrators or on the fringes of it, maybe witnesses and things. And they asked us, once we'd been through the process of whether or not they did their due diligence on us and we passed. And they said, so how many anti-knife sessions are you going to run? And I said, none. And it kind of threw them a little bit. They was like, what do you mean none? And I said, well, the way to deal with knife crime is not to keep talking about knife crime and focusing on knife crime. What I'm going to run is communication skills. I'm going to run about how to have interactions in positive ways, how to have disagreements with somebody without resorting to violence, how to work productively with somebody you don't like and don't necessarily disagree with. And we're going to do it all through the mechanism or the sort of the analogy of using football. So we formed a football club, a soccer club. Sorry, I'm going to translate as I go here. A soccer club. I know nothing about American football. And I actually know nothing about soccer, which makes it even more interesting because then I'm on the learning journey with them.
Yes.
But it wasn't just about playing soccer. It was about how do we form a club? How do we work together with people we don't know? How do we develop our skills? How do we develop our nutrition, our health, our emotional fitness, our physical fitness? How do we collaborate fully to get this club up and running? Do we need to recruit some young people who know about graphic design and marketing? The whole thing. It's just a learning vehicle. And I loved what you said in the intro there, Steph, about community, and Adria said as well. Now, community is an interesting thing. So my degree was done in distance learning, but I did a degree in informal and community education. Okay. And part of that learning that I did there, one of the very first, we didn't do lectures because that would have been formal education. We just had, we sat down in groups and discussed what we were doing at work, basically.
More Socratic conversations. And
but deep learning from each other through conversation, which is all I do now. Very early on in that process, one of the lecturers who wasn't giving a lecture asked us if we knew the true meaning of the word education. And we all said, yeah, of course we do. And then he tested us. And we got to this point where we were asked, do we know what the word deduce means? So again, with a very British reference, like Sherlock Holmes, when you're deducing a problem and you work out the solution for yourself. Now, the word education comes from the word educe, which we don't use. I don't know if you use that in the States. We don't really use that word.
We don't use that. No.
So at that point, most educators go, if deduce is working it out yourself, then educe must be the opposite, i.e., telling the student what they need to know. And it couldn't be further from the truth. The word educe means eliciting from within the latent knowledge and wisdom. So bringing forth what the young person already has within them. Now, when a young person feels that, and they know that I believe in them, and I know they've got some wisdom, the interaction changes. They're not there seeking help from me anymore. They might come into the interaction like this, where I'm the one up here, they're the one down here, and they're looking up to me to fix me or solve me or help me. And I will say, well, you think I've got some special powers? I can remove your violent tendencies, or I can make you less depressed. That's not going to work. I know you've got those powers. So let's talk about that.
Robin,
you're internal working, right? Working from the inside out.
Absolutely.
One of your associates said something interesting. Kids don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care.
Absolutely.
That goes right back to what you just said.
That runs through everything that we do. So that's my colleague Bob Singer, who is a guru. He would describe himself as a master youth coach. It's all he's ever done. It's all he's ever done. So yeah, young people don't care how much we know until they know how much we care.
Yeah, right.
So we demonstrate that we care and keep demonstrating and keep demonstrating and keep demonstrating and keep demonstrating, and then some learning can happen.
That's amazing. So in this whole distance learning and this whole social distancing, what are some of the tools that families, because now we're home with our kids, we're not always speaking the same language. I know that, parents aren't always as tuned in. Like I just learned, I'm going to just be honest, I just learned what TikTok is about 3 or 4 months ago, right before COVID. So around March, April, I was like, what? What? And so my daughter laughed at me for not knowing. And I felt like, you know what? I should know. I should be as tuned in to what their expectations are and what they are experiencing just as much as I am expecting them to be tuned into learning. So what are some of the tools, especially because families are really close now for the first time, that they can do to help support this emotional learning?
I mean, for me, I read a book when I was studying all those many, many years ago, called, and I can't remember who wrote it. It's called Creating the Teachable Moment. And I've mentioned this to many, many teachers and educators over the years. It's usually people just get into the classroom and say, we've got to start. The bell's rung. We've got to start. Now, without looking and checking, are the learners ready? Are the learners in the right mind space? Are they ready to start to take in some knowledge or bring forth some knowledge and to share some knowledge and learn from each other? So for me, again, it comes back to that engagement piece. If you don't notice, if you don't take the time to notice how your young people, whether they're your family or your students, how they're feeling before you start to, if you say, right, it's 9 o'clock, you should learn now, rather than, hey, let's get into the right state of mind because we're going to be learning once we're ready.
Right.
That is a key thing. Now, the other thing that we always talk about, my practice is, and a forthcoming book, whenever I get around to finishing it, is called The Art of Perception. So all we have, all of us, any age, all we have is our perception. And we're looking out at the world, creating our reality. So our community, our interactions with our friends, our family, our colleagues at school and college, the people down the road, the people on the bus, all of these people become part of our perception. How we see them depends on us. Most people see the world as working outside in. I do too, lots and lots of the time. It really looks that it works that way, and it really feels that it works that way. So in other words, that our friends, our family, the neighbors, the people upstairs and downstairs, the people on the bus, the people on the train, the people in the traffic jam, our colleagues, all those external people, the government, the media, the police, and all the weather, all those external things, our circumstances dictate how we feel. It really looks like that, and it really feels like that, and it's never like that.
You know what I like about that is I did some work at Duke under Dr. Purvis on visual perception on the brain.
Right.
I love exactly what you said, because what we see literally dictates our actions.
Yeah.
So when you're working with youth, they only see what's in front of them. And so as we talk about setting the example, doing the right moral and ethical thing, and being a person of great character, they see those things, and that dictates their environment.
Absolutely. I want to ask, to dovetail on that, when you're talking about perception, right, these lived experiences, because their lived experiences are so short, much shorter than ours, I think adults tend to put their learned experiences, okay, well, if you don't do this like this, you're going to get an F, or you're not going to pass. And they're looking at their perception of what they went through, and they're kind of they're forcing that almost on the children. So what are some of those tools? Like, I'm really interested in like how we help them shift that so that they're not looking at us for the solution.
So I've got 2 sons, neither at school age anymore. They're both grown up and off doing their own thing. I always used to say, like, if you're going to sit down and study biology, don't be a student of biology, be a biologist. Take the professional approach. If I'm going to study history, I don't want to be a student waiting to be taught. I want to think I'm a historian. I just don't know much about history yet, and I'll bring that approach to it. So doing it on your own terms. trying to get people to, like, for instance, when we sit down, often young people that are referred to work with us or the groups that we set up, they've often been through some challenges or are currently going through some challenges, like all of us do. You know, life throws things at us, and it's never those things that stop us achieving. It's how we respond to those things. So some of the young people that I've worked with have you know, they've seen family members murdered in front of their eyes at a very young age, and yet they've managed somehow to find something within them that I can't give them. I can point to it. I can help them to recognize that they have it, that some sort of strength that helps them to rise up and helps them to utilize that horrific experience to turn it into something positive, something good. Now, I'm not suggesting that you know, everybody has experiences like that, but even when people have had experiences as bad and as deeply upsetting and horrible as that, they're still able to get up and function. And you know, human beings are so resilient.
Yes.
Now, for me, the thing about getting people to learn, it comes back to this inside out thing and the importance of the present moment. Now, often, particularly young people have said things to me like, I struggle to be fully present, or they've tried to do mindfulness at school and I really can't be in the moment. I've heard people who study meditation say, I'm really struggling to be in the moment. Well, that here and now is the only time and place you can ever be. Like, show me how you could be in a different moment at a different time. Like, it's this. You think you're finding it difficult to be in the moment. And if you think that you're being agitated, or you think you can't concentrate, or you think you're tired, or you think you're bored, or you think you're uninterested, then you will be. So before we start to teach people facts so they can pass exams, there's a whole piece of education about where does your emotional resilience come from? What are emotions? Why do we have them? Where do they come from? What are they for? Once we get a handle on that, learning becomes easier because we know what we're doing it for and we understand how we feel. Now, lots of people, in my experience, lots of people, particularly people facing a challenge, will describe themselves as having the emotion or even being the emotion. They'll say, I am depressed, or I am angry, or I have depression, or I have anxiety, or whatever. The art of perception that we utilize in our practice is about just shifting the perception by enough so you can see it differently. And the little shift that we encourage people to do is to say that I'm doing that emotion, rather than I am it or I have it. If you're consumed with an emotion, or you are the emotion, your only option, your only possible option is to respond with that emotion. If you recognize that it's something that you're doing, and it might not be appropriate in this context right now, in this moment, anger might not be the best emotion if you're in a classroom. Anger's a great emotion if you walk down your stairs in the middle of the night and there's somebody's broken in to burgle your house. It's the appropriate emotion. So it's that piece of learning around what are emotions, why do we have them, where do they come from, what are they for me, is the setup to enable people to learn properly.
It almost just sounds like this should be the first set of curriculum, if we want to call it that, that we integrate into K through 12. Like, that should be the essential piece that is at the forefront for the time you start learning in a mixed environment. Let's just call it, that's what school is, right? Yeah. When you start learning and you're integrating with other people besides the people in your household. Because I think what happens for families is they have this child, right? And somewhere between 1 and 5, that's the time that the family's responsible for that. But if you don't have those tools, right, then the kid shows up in school at kindergarten or first grade without those tools. But that should be, if we're going to move forward in education and figure out what that way forward is, it sounds like we should begin with placing emotional literacy right in the center of every school from K through 12.
I mean, having emotions and actually understanding our emotions is, I was going to say it's a particularly human thing. It's not. Animals do have emotions. You can see a dog's angry. You can see a dog's sad. But being aware of it is different. Our level of awareness that we've been blessed with as humans is so immense. And I think that all of that learning about that skill, that emotional literacy, it should start before school. But how can parents do that at home if they're not aware of it?
Yeah.
So there's a piece of work with parents and kids. Now, I think that learning can happen together. I don't see the difference. You know, if I ran a school, and I was going to talk a little bit later about some of the schools I've visited, I would have the classroom open. I don't see the problem with having a 6-year-old learning with a 25-year-old learning with a 60-year-old. That's what happens in the animal kingdom. You don't see all the 2-year-old monkeys hanging around together and never interacting with the adults. That's not how. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I agree, and I think this is one of the benefits during this time of COVID with us being home is because we can spend that time together. Just like you went back and you guys built and created a football club, a soccer club. And you didn't know anything about the sport. You met the students where they were and you built it together. And we can do the same thing with that emotional literacy piece because we know that that's an instinctual part going into the classroom.
Absolutely. I mean, starting a sentence with, I need your help. Can you help me? The school sent me loads of your homework. I don't understand it. Can we sit down for a few hours, maybe tomorrow, or when you're feeling ready, and we need to go through this stuff because I don't understand it. I don't know what to tell your teachers. Now, there's two things have happened in this country during lockdown. Is that I've got lots of friends who have chosen to homeschool before lockdown. They've seen the education system and where it is in the UK currently, and thought that's not for my children. They're not being taught the right things. They're being taught things that I know are not true. But then there's this sort of enforced homeschooling that's taken place, where people who never dreamt of doing homeschooling, didn't think they had the capability to do homeschooling, have suddenly had that's their only choice. Now, a friend of mine's son, I think he was about 9 or 10. This was about 2 years ago, that they were asked in school, primary school, does anybody know who Christopher Columbus was? So this young boy, Haziah, was like, yes, miss, he was a thief, a rapist, a murderer, and a liar.
He told the truth.
He told the truth. He spoke truth to power.
He was thrown out of the classroom. The teacher said he was being rude and disruptive. Now, if we're going to teach kids something that is, that's the truth. His own diaries will tell us that. How can we expect them to learn? Now, I don't know how things are, particularly in the States, but I've seen lots and lots of different schools in lots and lots of different countries. I don't think they're even educating in 20th century ways. I think they're educating in 19th century ways. Like the schooling system that we have was set up to train people to work in factories.
Absolutely.
Sit in rows, do what you're told, go to the toilet when the bell rings, eat when the bell rings, stand up when we say, sit down when we say. That's not how children are learning these days. So you have a kid at home from the age of 1 till they go to school, or age of 0 till they go to school, and we encourage them to jump around and to make noise and to sing and to learn how to climb and to express themselves. And then they arrive in school and it's sit down and be quiet.
Right.
They start off their schooling going, what? This is confusing me. Now, one of the biggest things that we utilize in our work is that silence seems to be perceived as a punishment by most kids. For me, silence is a gift. And it's out of that silence. If you can learn to live with the silence inside, and if you can learn to create some silence inside, you're creating those teachable moments. When kids are calm and still, they start to notice, how amazing they are. All the other noise of the thinking, all of the, am I cool enough? Have I got the right shoes? Does he fancy me? Does she fancy me? Does the teacher going to tell me off? All that stuff that goes on every day. Once that goes away, they remember who they are. And they remember that before they took a breath, they were already a miracle.
Yes.
Yes.
And they remember that every problem they've ever faced so far in their life, they've dealt with 100% of the time. Only 100% of the time. Because that's what got them to this moment. And if they can be reminded of that, they can address all kinds of other things that haven't come up for them yet.
So what I love about your work that you do is you're really teaching people just how humanity works. Yeah. This is how you, as a human being, are here and why you were created. So these are the resources that you can use to remember that. This is really exciting work, and I could see so many ways as we move forward of how we can together change the educational system. Like this is some incredible work that we're doing together, and as it evolves, I can literally see parents going, I do remember, because I can remember myself knowing that I was going to be this agent of change. but then I did other things in my life and the fear and all this, and I literally just stopped. And I don't even know why. And I think it was because I kept thinking that wasn't the way forward, because what are you going to be when you grow up was like the architect during that time. And now it's like, I instead of saying, who are you? What's inside of you? Like what I hear you saying, that you already know. So this is an essential time for us to talk to our kids and have these conversations. Well, what do you think? What's inside
Adria,
of you?
once you know,
growing all the time.
Once you know for sure, nothing can rock you. It's like you become kind of bulletproof to all of that other nonsense.
Yes.
You know, I think that amusement parks are the great equalizer, because as adults, they take us back to being a kid. And then to see your kid experience that with you for the very first time, you know, that's that moment of connection where you've not only met them halfway, but you're looking at it through their lens with them. And to educate them at that exact same time, you know, through that exact same lens, helps them more than it actually helps us.
100%. There's something that happens during sort of formal, traditional, if you like, education. In like when kids, before kids go to school, we encourage them to make mistakes. You know, you can't learn to walk or talk without making mistakes. Kids don't get embarrassed about those mistakes. They don't get shy. That, you know, I know every child that can walk, and I recognize there's some who can't, but every child who can walk has fallen over so many times to get to that point.
Absolutely.
Suddenly you get into the education system where if you make a mistake, you get a bad mark.
Right.
You might be asked to stay behind after school. Your parents might be invited in to talk to the teacher. Making mistakes becomes the worst possible thing you could do. But we know as human beings that that's how we learn. So I'm always like, let's encourage them to make mistakes. I want you to get it wrong, because you get it wrong, you learn from it, you get up, you do it again. That's how we become good at something. Like the most successful people on this planet are the people who have made the most mistakes.
Right.
It shifted their whole experience of education. They become the controllers.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And really the advent of our tech companies and their open floor plans and open workspaces, so that that organic collaboration piece.
Yeah.
And that's the other reason why I can't be mad at like a Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook for wanting to put satellites to actually provide connectivity to countries that don't have it. So they actually do things like that. And just to kind of wrap all of that together, having the ability to tap into someone who's already have that lived experience and lived education piece allows me as an early stage learner from K-12 to push and challenge my goals and edges of knowledge, to understand this is my base. This isn't this is my floor, but my ceiling is you know, there is no ceiling. And just to kind of wrap all that last piece up together, that's why I was so inspired about NASA, you know, really connecting our students to the International Space Station so they can have real-time learning and engagement outer space. Like,
but how did we get things so wrong as a society globally, pretty much, where it's almost like if parents are trying to homeschool, like some of us feel a bit embarrassed that we don't understand. If I had a son who was studying physics, I know very little about physics. Rather than saying, I'm on the same stage as you, son, I don't really know much about physics, shall we learn together? When did making mistakes become a problem? Something went drastically wrong. And the solution to that is just to take away all of that sort of judgment. You know, learning through play as a child is very different to, I've got to get to a level 4, I've got to get to a level 6, or I've got to do my, you know, whatever the high school exams are. It becomes judgment, and it becomes difficult. You feel like you're being judged and you know, whether you know it, whether you get the answer right, rather than just enjoying the process.
And it's even funnier, before I turn it over to Adria, I just want to finish this thought. It's even funnier that we teach that in business. Like all our business leaders are like, fail first, fail frequent, fail often, because that's going to tell you that's not the right way to do it. You're going to find the right way to do it.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've had the privilege of being able to do this stuff in other countries, in the Caribbean and in Africa and India, and you know, the things that kids are facing, the problems that kids are facing in a rural village in India. I'd go there expecting it to be different to a kid in London. It's the same. It's the same.
Yeah.
They're facing the same things. I've met kids in the middle of nowhere studying degrees on their phones.
Wow.
Nice.
They value it. They want it. they'll walk miles to get to a school.
Right.
Sometimes when things are freely available and there's a plethora of schools to choose from and different packages to use online, and it becomes like, well, there's so much you don't choose any of it.
Well, it becomes overwhelming.
Just a switch. You just need a switch in your mind and your heart to say, actually, I'm gonna take advantage of all of this stuff.
Right.
Well, I think it becomes overwhelming when there's an excess of choices, right? And I can remember as I was, my son must have been like 3 or 4, and his dad was like, he doesn't know what he doesn't like, because I was telling him, oh, he's not going to like something, right? And he's like, he doesn't know what he doesn't like. And I think when we have so many choices, it gets overwhelming. And I was like, well, there's so much to choose from. Like, I got to help him choose, and we really don't. They can make those decisions on their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things I want to talk about next, Robin, is due to your immense experience and being the youth ambassador for the Commonwealth, you made some decisions early on, as we've heard, to really help kids just tap into who they are. And as a result, you did a film.
Yeah.
Called East Side Stories.
Yeah. Loosely based on West Side Story.
Loosely, right?
Loosely.
So,
which was loosely based on Romeo and Juliet. There's only one story, really. So what we did was we introduced those themes to 2 separate groups of young people here in East London, in my home borough where I live, in Waltham Forest in East London. There's 2, we call them housing estates. I think you call them projects. They're meant to be rivals, and people have died. They are rivals, some of the people who live there. But we worked with both of them on their own for 1 month, and then took them both to the countryside separately. They arrived separately, where they met for the first time. And at the beginning of that process, we said to these young people, we're going to do a play. We're going to do a stage play. And the BBC are going to document the whole process. And at that point, I'd kind of put the team together, and my colleague Bob that we mentioned earlier we're working alongside. We do everything together. We brought in some drama professionals, music professionals, anybody that we needed. Obviously, the BBC brought the cameras and the sound and all of that stuff. At the beginning of the process, lots of the young people had, well, all of us, we all have stories running in our mind about who we are and what we're capable of, what we can dream of achieving, what we should never even consider being possible for us.
Absolutely.
And lots of these stories were coming out in the first few weeks. And we just kept repeating that it's just a story in your head, that you're not compelled to believe it.
Exactly.
Like, just because nobody in your family's ever been to university, that doesn't stop you from going to university.
Right.
Just because all of the men in your family get drunk on a Friday and go out and do whatever they do, doesn't mean that you have to do that. Right. So we had a young man said to me, he's 14 years old. He said, but the phrase he used, which is a government phrase here, and he'd been in problems with the police. He's been arrested. He's been, had some challenges in his life. He said, but I'm a product of my environment.
Yeah, we use that here too, unfortunately.
All I said to him was, but I've been to your house. I've been to your flat. Been to your apartment. I've met your mum, I've met your uncles, I've met your brothers. Are they all involved in the gangs as well? And he went, no. And I said, well, how can it be the environment? They're in the same environment as you. That's just a story. So we had this thing going, that people were saying, even the drama professionals that came in said, you can't do a play in 12 weeks. You haven't got a script. These are not actors, these are children. And they're children with challenges. And I said, what if that was just a story too? And these young people, I mean, most acting is about accessing real emotion. If you want to act sad on stage, you have to access a real memory from your own life that makes you able to be sad. So we said to these kids, look, we don't want you to act. You've been acting every day on the road, on the street, at school. You're playing a part. We want you to be you on stage. Really, really authentically you. And it blew people's minds. The whole audience were in tears. I mean, we did 2 shows, both sold out. It was a big spotlight on us as well. We were the first ever London Borough of Culture. So every year now there's going to be a different borough, which is the Borough of Culture. If it ever happens again, who knows? Because of COVID.
It'll happen. We'll figure that out, right?
That's growl right there.
Absolutely.
Robin, you said something a second ago about that 14-year-old student that you had worked with, but it sounds like, over your entire life, you've come across students who've had those moments of brilliance. You were telling a story about one student who was talking to one of your parliamentarians and said society breeds the citizens that it deserves. Our behavior is a result of your system.
Yeah.
And that stuck with you, right? And as it did with me. And so you're telling the story about the 14-year-old who you have now real-time engagement, but I'm layering those two on top of the brilliance of your youth there in London.
I mean, young people are phenomenal. Human beings are phenomenal. And if we forget to nurturing our children is the single most important role we have as any community, anywhere on the planet. If we forget to nurture our young people and our children, what are we saying about our own futures, let alone their futures?
Absolutely.
So for me, all I do is, people will often say to me, can you fix them? Can you solve their problems? Can you? And I say, no, but I know they can. I 100% know they can.
Yes.
And I don't have to tell them that. We interact and they feel it. Once they feel that, everything becomes possible for them. So that 14-year-old, he challenged a politician in Parliament. This politician, there was 1,000-something young people there, and it was to talk about the gang problem that we have in London. You know, we're seeing significant gang problems even during lockdown. I realize that our gang problems are nowhere near as significant as your gang problems. It's on a completely different level. But the politician stood on the stage and said, when are you young people going to stop killing each other over nothing? And this young man replied by saying, we'll stop when you stop.
Wow. Exactly.
And the politician said, what do you mean? And he said, I'm not killing people. And the kid went, I thought you were in government. And he said, I am. He said, you're killing people in countries that you've never even been to right now. So we're a product of the society we grow up in. If you're brought up in a society where violence is on the increase, how can we be shocked that the young people show violent tendencies?
Right. They're just mirroring. So let's look at that. Let's look at this video where these kids are, you know, seeing this nurturing that you're giving them through the process that you created.
Why so many lonely tears? Why there's so many lonely people?
So it's still difficult to fully express myself and what I want to say, because there's still some of us like, who cares, or it's not really important.
Up to now, yeah? I'm so sorry. Has built my confidence. Thank you.
In this group, you can be whoever you want. You can be whoever you want to be. You can be who you really are.
Wow. Makes the hairs on my arm stand up when I watch that.
Did you see in the video where the young lady was apologizing for being emotional?
Yeah.
That's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about that this week online with a group of young people, how a lot of women, particularly in our society, start their sentences with sorry before you've even said anything. So we encourage them just to use a phrase like, you know, thank you for understanding. Don't say sorry, I'm late. Say thank you for understanding.
Yeah.
Just to change that. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad there were subtitles. I don't know whether lots of your viewers would have understood those young people otherwise with our strange English accent.
I think they would have. What I found is the emotion of it, even though they weren't, you know, some of it wasn't full on talking, is what people need to see.
But we're going to share the link for the whole documentary, aren't we? So people can see it. It's on video.
Yes, we're going to do a watch party on our UH360 network. So
Fantastic.
this is going to air, and we're going to do the watch party along with that, so that people can understand the work that you're doing beyond the impact that the work is having. And that's another question I have for you. So since this film, what has been the impact of those students that were in that film? I heard you say that they want to do this, with other boroughs. So what has been the impact for those students that participated?
We got them all together as soon as the documentary was aired. So the stage show had happened, the documentary had been broadcast, and then we got them together. Most of them came. Some of them had moved house. Some of them had, gone off to college and things. But we got them together, and this was way, way, way before lockdown. And just asked for some feedback. And the feedback we got from them was that they loved it, they enjoyed it. One of them said, but you had to be in the room to get the benefit of the stage show. Now, the documentary is powerful, but the stage show blew people's minds.
Yeah.
So he said, what we want to do now, why don't we do it on screen? Rather than doing it on stage, we want to do it on screen. So we're repeating the process with all of our coaching and support and all of the nurturing alongside it in 4 London boroughs, encouraging young people to do this digital media stuff. Some of it will be filmed stage shows, if we're allowed to do stage shows soon. Some of it will be animation, some of it will be films. We've got some young people who want to make some feature films. Some of them are hosting their own blogs and vlogs and YouTube channels and, wherever we can. Now, the young girl who you saw in that clip, in the black Adidas tracksuit saying, I find it very hard to express what I'm thinking. Literally, that was week 3. For the first 2 weeks, she said very little over and above her own name. She was referred to us because she's suffering extreme anxiety and wasn't employable, hadn't finished schooling and college. So she came to the sessions, and I have to admire her for she kept coming. But she saw something. What she said is she saw something and felt something different. So she kept coming back. You saw her on stage singing in that clip.
Yeah.
Now, in 12 weeks, she went from not being able to introduce herself to a group of 20 to being on stage in front of a group, a whole audience, being able to sing. She then after that, she got herself an apprenticeship. She's partway through an apprenticeship in film and media, doing amazing things. She's coming back and she helps us now. She's one of our youth coaches who helps us with the new intake. In fact, I'm seeing her tomorrow because we're doing a film tomorrow, also around knife crime. We've got a partnership with some fashion companies running, where they're going to design some jeans, and the buttons will be made from metal stamped from knives.
Nice.
Wow.
And the money that we're going to get after they start to sell the clothing and the couture that's made is going to raise money for other youth projects. So she's made a phenomenal leap forward, and most of them have. Yeah,
I had the honor of meeting one of your students. She was here.
Yes, Safia.
Safia, and she was here. And on her last day, she came for a conference. And on her last day before she was shipping off, we had brunch, and she came and met my family. Oh my goodness, the impact! That young lady is full on fire. Her and her family actually have a media company that they do these films and movies, and it's amazing. And she contributed all her effort to you. And she said she pops back in, and she was like, I couldn't have been who I am today had I not met Robin. And and she's like, sometimes he listens to me and sometimes he doesn't, because I have to get in there with those kids. So she's just at her energy she's just like 24 or 25 years old. But the impact that she's making in the world, she directly contributed to being part of your program.
Wow, I mean that's beautiful to hear. And she comes from an amazing family. But again, she was struggling. When I met her, she's never been to school. So she was totally homeschooled, Safia, from birth. She's got 5 siblings and they've all been homeschooled. Such an amazing mum. I think 3 or 4 years ago, they put the family in a car with cameras, with the what do you call the boot? The trunk.
Yes.
Full up with food, tins of food, packets of seeds, blankets, all kinds of stuff. And she drove to Gambia. And they filmed the process, got to Gambia, gave out all of the stuff they brought, and left the car there as well as a resource, and travelled back. And the mum was there. Mum had a baby with her. They're a phenomenal family, and they're a testament to what's possible when you believe it's possible.
So this session has been all about bringing hope and love and encouragement to the inner person. And it's really essential in this time that we reconnect those dots. Yeah. The program is called Got School only because we understood that that was what's going on in most people's mind right now. But we birthed it into something really unique and maybe global now because of you. Thank you for being here. So I want to get some final thoughts. Where can people find you? What can we look forward to in the future from you? And we'll do the same with Steph.
So, I mean, the easiest way to find me is robinlockhart.net. And it's ROBIN. Lockhart is LOCKHART. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. I probably don't do any of those things correctly. I certainly don't make use of them as much as I should. I'm putting the finishing touches to a book called The Art of Perception. And if you check out I Love Youth Work, we also have a project where we say it's conversations for and with youth workers from around the globe. So today I'd like to invite you to come and be a participant on that, because any work with young people is youth work in my book. Doesn't have to be in a youth club, doesn't have to be with an age that's called youth. So yeah, I'd like to have you on as a guest, both of you. I think that would be phenomenal. We'll return the favor.
That'd be incredible. And I have some new people for you to meet that love youth work as well. So this is
ultimately what I'd like to try and do is connect some young people from here with some young people there. That's what we ought to do next.
Did you guys hear that? We want people from London to come here, and we'll make it COVID friendly or whatever the new rules are. But it is essential that they get out and learn and explore the world. So let's make that happen for them. Does everybody? Go ahead, Steph.
No, but even sooner, let's do it virtually. Just like we did on a Saturday morning, that's late afternoon for you. We can make those connections and we can make them happen.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Steph, what are you up to in the world?
One of the great takeaways this morning, 4 a.m. has been so life-changing for me. So many knowledge bombs have dropped out of the sky. Meeting Robin for the first time, threw some knowledge grenades at me I wasn't expecting. And I've taken more notes today than any of our other sessions, because the work that you've done and the background that I've found is amazing. And I want to say thank you for that. And Adria, Mailon, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to even be a part of having these engagements. And all of our listeners and viewers out there, Got School is bringing you real-time, relevant, actionable content from every one of our episodes, from episode 1 up until now. And just know that our goal and our mission going forward is to continue to uplift and scaffold that. But Robin, EDUCE is game changing, because we can tie that on to what we learned from Andrea Faro last week with Co, or the week before with Co. Like those two fixes just change your entire dynamic. And I just want to say thank you for that. What we've been up to, like I said, really spending time with our governance, our education committees, our boards of trustees, and just spending a lot of time doing that, making sure that they have the right resources and content for our students, not only in the traditional district schools, but our magnet schools, our charter schools, and of course our homeschooling families. And so we have, again, etap.org/adaptive learning. We've partnered with classroomapp.com to be able to provide a full resource with full wraparound services. And both of those organizations are now tied into the gratitude reward solution. So we're not only able to provide families with education, but also cash back rewards, throughout the course of the year to help them be able to feed their families and support them. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So you've been watching another episode. Oh, I need to tell you what I've been up
to. What about you?
I just enjoy the conversation so much. I forget that we are doing some amazing things at the Urban Alchemy 360. We're going to be producing more shows like this one, all around the mind, body, and soul. So if you have content or an idea for a show, reach out to us at hello@urbanalchemy360.com for more information. We can share this platform with you and help you create that thing that you've been wanting to share with the world, again, around the mind, body, and soul. We also are doing some amazing things in nonlinear education. So we invite you, if you have some content to share on Got School, reach out to us and we'll support that. And I think that's all we're up to right now. I mean, we do a lot of other things. We have some amazing, it is still the political season here in the United States.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most important times. So we have our Califia Now colleagues are going to be coming on talking about what's going on in politics in the county of San Diego. And then lastly, C4GS, which is our Communities for Global Sustainability. Here, we are going to be creating housing with some excellent partners, Brent Mussum of Mussum Factory. He came to us and he has a modular construction project we're going to be building in Paradise, California. If any of you know, Paradise, California had a huge electrical fire that was started and the whole town burnt. So Urban Alchemy 360 and our C4GS Communities for Global Sustainability will be building. So we're up to a lot. We're world changers and we want you to join us in that. So look us up, urbanalchemy360.com or c4gs.org. That's what we're up to in the world. So again, you've been listening to another episode of Got School. My name's Adria, the It Girl. Thank you to Mailon Rivera, our awesome director, for making this all happen every week. And tune in again. Same bat channel, same bat time. Have a great day.
Got School.
They say that love feeds on love. Naturally, yeah. Naturally, we love each other. Cause we were meant to be. Naturally, like I knew you were the one, shining brighter than the sun. Naturally, like I knew you were the one. Naturally, naturally, naturally.
Hello and welcome back to Got School. My name's Adria Fox, the It Girl.
And I'm Steph Groce. Welcome back.
So today we have our guest, as you know, Robin LOCKHART. Robin LOCKHART is a human development expert, and he has such a diverse background. He is also the Commonwealth Youth Ambassador and a lover of reggae music. I just want to throw that in.
And a brilliant connector.
Yes. Welcome back. We have a
Good to
few
be
more.
back.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, we have some really deep questions that we got from our audience, and they're really interested in learning more about you. So they want to know, what can families do from imploding emotionally during this time?
Yeah, I think that's a very common question for most people at the moment. There's lots of external pressures. I think that for me, it's to remember that your kids are no different to you. They're just younger. If you're feeling pressured in your home environment, think about how they must be feeling too, and recognize that we're in this together. I recognize it's not been easy. There's been a lot of families have been putting up with all kinds of horrific stuff, and people are dying, and it's not been easy for anyone. But least of all for our kids.
Okay.
So try and put ourselves in their shoes, and remember we're the adults. We need to hold it together, and recognize what if you're feeling that you're going to emotionally implode. What is the feeling you've got? Notice it. Notice what you're noticing.
Right.
Notice what you're noticing. Go ahead, Steph.
No, that's good. My question the question that came in was, how do you foster a sense of social impact for youth? I mean, how do you foster that and spark that interest in them to get out to be socially impactful?
I mean, have you heard there's a saying about how if you don't initiate the youth properly into the village, they might burn it down just to feel some warmth.
Oh, that's good. I hadn't heard that before, so thank you for that.
So if young people feel marginalized, if they feel excluded, if they don't feel that they're in the heart of the community, we either leave them there and deal with the consequences, or we bring them into the heart of the community and remind them that it's not youth and community. You have young people as part of the community. It's not two separate things. So bring them firmly into the heart of it and make them know how important they are.
That's good. Thank you.
Well, that's kind of what you did with the documentary, right? So
yeah,
people
that's all I ever do.
That's what you did, right? So they're asking, what recommendations do you have for others looking to create community-based documentaries or films?
I mean, for me, I think that the most obvious thing to say is to start. We've all got technology you can reach. We've all got tech that we can make films with. Don't stop yourself from starting. Don't get stuck at the planning and preparing and storyboarding. And I'm not saying don't do any planning, but I'm saying make sure you start filming. And I think that we're in a unique. I pray we're in a unique time in history. I hope this doesn't go on. I hope it doesn't repeat. And it's important to document what's going on for people. We've told young people now that we're working with to keep a video diary,
right,
which is really useful for them. But the thing that made them start recording was when we said it's really useful for your grandchildren.
Ooh, now so the legacy part, so connecting it to, you're not doing this for you, so that you can be the next YouTube star or whatever, or whatever TikTok star. You're recording this for the next generation. Yeah,
Granddad, what did you do during lockdown? Well, let me show you. It's very different to let's have a talk.
It's our virtual time capsule. You remember back when we were in elementary school? We put a time capsule together, and now here we are today. And we don't even remember what it is. So a virtual time capsule for sure.
Awesome. And then, so what 3 books do we have? We have a lot of students listening and their parents. So what 3 books do you recommend for high school students to read?
Wow.
Because they're not currently required to read.
Yeah. I mean, for me, reading actual books, not on the screen, reading an actual book is a different process. Sitting somewhere, getting some quiet and saying, I'm going to read for an hour, I'm going to read 2 chapters, or I'm going to read 50 pages, whatever it might be, is a very different process to sitting in front of a screen. So I love that you said books. Reading anything is worthwhile. 3 books that have popped into my head at the moment. If you ask me this tomorrow, you might get 3 different books. One book that really impacted me, and it's a really small book, really easy to read, is called The Enlightened Gardener, by a guy called Sidney Banks, who was a Scottish welder. who gave up being a welder when he had a bit of a spiritual epiphany. And the Enlightened Gardener is an outline of the story would be it's about a convention of psychiatrists coming together for a conference, and they've all got their presentations ready, and then they meet the gardener, who tells them how human beings really work. So it's a powerful change. Another book I would recommend is a book called Ishmael. by Daniel Quinn. It's this person reads an advert in a newspaper, something along the lines of human being wanted to change the world. Only serious people should apply. So he applies and basically is interviewed by a gorilla. And this gorilla has been taught how to speak. It's all nonsense, but this gorilla has been captured in a circus, taught how to speak, and has a lot to teach humanity. So you hear from a gorilla about what he sees human beings doing.
Wow.
It's powerful. And the most important book, the book that everybody should read, is the book of your life that you haven't written yet. Recognize that you're living. Whatever you do now impacts your next chapter. It's being written. It's being written through you. That's the answer you're getting today.
All right. Woo. Okay. So you heard that. Write your own story and document it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
So we're ready for our pro tips from our pro.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to this being a COVID homeschooling situation, just remember that your kids are the same as you. Remember, they're going through this situation with you. They're just younger. And try and put yourself in their shoes. That's pro tip number one. Pro tip number two is the thing about noticing what you notice. If you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling upset, try and notice it and give yourself some time. Slow right down and think about how does this feel? Where did it come from? How did it start? And just the process of noticing what you're going through, what you're feeling, usually is enough to start dissolving it. It's very different to notice that you're angry than being angry. And the third one,
think, right?
The third one, which I suppose is something that we mentioned earlier on in our conversation, is just don't be afraid to get it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to say, I got it wrong yesterday. I'm really sorry about that. Oh, you got it wrong today. Shall we redo this? What did we learn from our mistake? Shall we? How many more shall we make tomorrow?
Yes.
You know, let's try and do double the mistakes tomorrow.
As entrepreneurs, as all of us are, that's one of the main things that we always hear from these most successful people is fail fast, fail forward, fail often, because you're going to learn from that and you're going to do it right and better the next time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's back to that Stephen Covey win-win stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Plug for the Cove.
We love Stephen Covey, right? 8 habits now. I think he has. That's another good book, by the way.
That's another one to put on the list.
Effective people. Yes. Well, let's wrap this up. We thank you so much, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you
for being here.
A real privilege.
LOCKHART, ladies and gentlemen. Expert in the field of human development, and lots of stuff to share. Lots more to come from Robin. And thank you, Steph, for being here as well. You've been listening to another episode of Got School. We'll see you next time. Same bat place and same bat channel. Thanks for tuning in.
Got School. Woo.
Hey.